It was a chilly evening in late November when my phone buzzed with a message that would change everything. I was sitting in my small, cozy kitchen in Atlanta, the faint aroma of pumpkin spice from the candle mixing with the lingering scent of freshly brewed coffee. I wasn't expecting anyone, certainly not my daughter, who had moved out months ago to pursue her college dreams in another state. Her messages had become increasingly scarce, short and clipped. Her life busy, mine quiet, filled with the usual routine of work, meals, and quiet evenings alone. The message simply read, "Mom, I need to see you. It's urgent." My heart skipped a beat. Urgent was never a word my daughter used lightly. I typed back quickly, "I'll be home in 30 minutes. Don't worry, everything will be fine." By the time I drove to her apartment, the late autumn sun had already begun to dip behind the skyline. Atlanta's streets were alive with the usual traffic, yet I felt a strange silence around me, as if the city itself was holding its breath, warning me that my life was about to pivot in ways I could never anticipate. I arrived at her building, my hands trembling slightly as I unlocked the door. The apartment smelled faintly of lavender and the faint tang of disinfectant. She stood in the hallway, a figure I thought I knew, yet something about her posture seemed altered, tense, hesitant, and fragile. And then I saw it. In her arms, swaddled in a soft blue blanket, was a baby. I froze. My mind scrambled to understand what I was seeing. This wasn't just a casual visit. This wasn't just a daughter coming home to talk about college, friends, or weekend plans. This was something else entirely. She looked up, her eyes glistening with tears, the kind that only appear after sleepless nights and heavy burdens. "Mom, I need you to sit down," she said softly, her voice trembling. I moved to the small sofa in the living room, the baby cradled carefully in her arms. I could feel the warmth, the weight, the quiet vulnerability of this tiny human. My hands wanted to reach out, to hold, to comfort, but my mind was racing. I don't even know how to start," she whispered, setting the baby gently on the couch between us. I leaned forward instinctively, my fingers brushing against the soft blanket. The baby's tiny hand grasped at nothing, its delicate fingers curling in the instinctive motions of life that I had never experienced. And then she said the words that would shatter my perception of reality. "Mom, this baby, it's yours." I laughed, nervously, a short, choked laugh that came from confusion rather than amusement. "What are you saying?" My voice was barely above a whisper. She took a deep breath, as if preparing herself for a confession she had rehearsed 1,000 times. "Mom, I found out about the past, about you, about me, and this baby, it's yours. I'm your daughter's child, my child, but biologically, it's yours." Time froze. My head swam. I blinked, trying to process her words. I thought of the baby, of the soft cooing, of the tiny face that looked impossibly familiar. The resemblance was uncanny. Those same eyes, the same curve of the nose, the same delicate hands. My mind spiraled back years before her birth, before her childhood, to secrets I had buried deep within. Memories I thought were long forgotten began to resurface like waves crashing onto a shoreline I had avoided for decades. I remembered the hospital room, the faint smell of antiseptic, the way her tiny fingers had wrapped around my hand when she was first born. The uncertainty of my choices, the mistakes I had made, the decisions I had hidden from everyone, including her father. "Mom, are you listening?" Her voice snapped me back. She was staring at me, anxious, desperate for me to understand. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. My hands reached out slowly to touch the baby's face, tracing the contour of the cheek with trembling fingers. "You're this baby's real mother?" I asked, my voice cracking under the weight of disbelief. She shook her head. "No, not exactly. I mean, yes, biologically, yes, but I didn't know how to tell you until now. I didn't want to. I was scared. I didn't know if you'd forgive me or if you'd even want to see me again." The room felt smaller, the walls pressing closer with the gravity of revelation. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. All I could do was stare at the baby in front of me, the small life that somehow connected us in ways I had never imagined. I thought about my daughter, now holding the truth in her trembling hands. I thought about all the times we'd laughed together, cried together, fought, reconciled, and shared moments that seemed ordinary but were actually preparing us for this confrontation with the past, this collision of generations, mistakes, secrets, and love. "Mom, please, just look at her. See her. See what she carries from you," my daughter pleaded. And I did. I looked at her, and in that gaze I felt something break and mend all at once. Love, fear, confusion, hope, and despair all tangled in the small, fragile being swaddled in blue. The hours that followed blurred into a tapestry of whispered conversations, tears, and tentative laughter. We talked about how she discovered the truth, how she felt about me, how she feared the judgment of the family we had both known and the society outside our apartment walls. I realized with a mix of relief and sorrow that life had given me a second chance, and an unexpected, fragile, and miraculous second chance. And that evening, sitting in my daughter's apartment with the baby nestled safely in my arms, I understood that family was not just about blood. It was about love, forgiveness, and facing the truths we had hidden from ourselves for too long. And somewhere in that moment, I knew the story was just beginning. The baby's soft breathing filled the room like a fragile melody, each tiny exhale a reminder of the life now entwined with ours. I sat frozen for a moment, letting my hands hover over her small chest, feeling the warmth radiating through the blanket. My daughter's eyes were locked on mine, searching, pleading, desperate for a reaction that could reassure her that all was not lost. I don't know where to begin," I whispered, my voice trembling as if it might shatter at any second. The weight of the secret we both carried, the hidden truths, the concealed choices, the generations of mistakes pressed down on me. And yet, beneath it all, there was a spark of something miraculous. This tiny human had become the bridge between our fractured past and the possibility of healing. She took a deep breath. "Mom, I found out last week. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think about anything else. I kept looking at her and imagining you holding her, imagining the truth. And tonight, I just had to come. I had to show you. I couldn't do it over text or call. It had to be face to face." I nodded slowly, the emotions rising inside me like a tide I had no control over. I wanted to scream, to cry, to hold her, to push her away, all at once. I see her. I see her," I murmured, reaching out and brushing a lock of fine hair away from the baby's forehead. The resemblance was undeniable. That tiny curl of hair, the arch of the eyebrow, the delicate roundness of her cheeks. It was as if I was looking at a miniature version of my own reflection from years ago. My daughter's lips quivered as she watched me. "Mom, she's been waiting for you. Not just me, but her. She's been waiting for you to understand, to accept, to love her as she deserves. I can't do this alone." The words cut deeper than I expected. I felt the sting of years I had spent running from mistakes, hiding truths, and avoiding confrontation. Now there was no escaping it. I was confronted with the culmination of choices, secrets, and generations of unspoken stories. And in that moment, the tiny life cradled in my arms became a mirror reflecting both my failures and my chance for redemption. I I don't even know how to respond, I said finally, my hand still hovering over the child. All of this, it's overwhelming. She nodded, tears glinting in the corners of her eyes. I know, Mom. I know. That's why I came, because I need you. She needs you. And I think we can fix this together. The truth of her words settled over me like a blanket. I realized that for years I had been trying to control everything, to hide, to protect, to avoid discomfort. That life, as it often does, had a way of forcing confrontation, of bringing us face to face with our reality. And now, reality was sitting here, swaddled in blue, waiting for me to claim it. I leaned closer, my fingers finally making contact with the tiny hand that instinctively wrapped around my finger. A shock of connection ran through me, a tether stronger than anything I had ever known. I want to understand, I whispered. Tell me everything. Start from the beginning. Don't leave anything out. She took a shaky breath and began recounting the months leading up to this moment, the tests she had run quietly, the calls she had made to medical experts, the late nights of research, and the sleepless nights filled with fear and anticipation. She spoke of doubt, guilt, and uncertainty, and how every step had led her to this very room in front of me, demanding truth and reconciliation. As she spoke, memories flooded my mind, memories I had long buried, memories of my own mistakes, of moments where I had chosen convenience over honesty, comfort over clarity, and silence over confrontation. But each memory, painful as it was, began to make sense in the context of the present. The tiny life cradled in my arms became a mirror reflecting both my failures and my chance for redemption. I don't even know how to respond, I said finally, my hand still hovering over the child. All of this, it's overwhelming. She nodded, tears glinting in the corners of her eyes. I know, Mom. I know. That's why I came, because I need you. She needs you. And I think we can fix this together. The truth of her words settled over me like a blanket. I realized that for years I had been trying to control everything, to hide, to protect, to avoid discomfort. But life, as it often does, had a way of forcing confrontation, of bringing us face to face with our reality. And now reality was sitting here, swaddled in blue, waiting for me to claim it. I leaned closer, my fingers finally making contact with the tiny hand that instinctively wrapped around my finger. A shock of connection ran through me, a tether stronger than anything I had ever known. I want to understand, I whispered. Tell me everything. Start from the beginning. Don't leave anything out. She took a shaky breath and began recounting the months leading up to this moment, the tests she had run quietly, the calls she had made to medical experts, the late nights of research, and the sleepless nights filled with fear and anticipation. She spoke of doubt, guilt, and uncertainty, and how every step had led her to this very room in front of me, demanding truth and reconciliation. As she spoke, memories flooded my mind, memories I had long buried, memories of my own mistakes, of moments where I had chosen convenience over honesty, comfort over clarity, and silence over confrontation. But each memory, painful as it was, began to make sense in the context of the present.
The tiny life cradled in my arms became a mirror reflecting both my failures and my chance for redemption. I I don't even know how to respond, I said finally, my hand still hovering over the child. All of this, it's overwhelming. She nodded, tears glinting in the corners of her eyes. I know, Mom. I know. That's why I came, because I need you. She needs you. And I think we can fix this together. The truth of her words settled over me like a blanket. I realized that for years I had been trying to control everything, to hide, to protect, to avoid discomfort. But life, as it often does, had a way of forcing confrontation, of bringing us face to face with our reality. And now reality was sitting here, swaddled in blue, waiting for me to claim it. I leaned closer, my fingers finally making contact with the tiny hand that instinctively wrapped around my finger. A shock of connection ran through me, a tether stronger than anything I had ever known. I want to understand, I whispered. Tell me everything. Start from the beginning. Don't leave anything out. She took a shaky breath and began recounting the months leading up to this moment, the tests she had run quietly, the calls she had made to medical experts, the late nights of research, and the sleepless nights filled with fear and anticipation. She spoke of doubt, guilt, and uncertainty, and how every step had led her to this very room in front of me, demanding truth and reconciliation. As she spoke, memories flooded my mind, memories I had long buried, memories of my own mistakes, of moments where I had chosen convenience over honesty, comfort over clarity, and silence over confrontation. But each memory, painful as it was, began to make sense in the context of the present. The tiny life cradled in my arms became a mirror reflecting both my failures and my chance for redemption. I don't even know how to respond, I said finally, my hand still hovering over the child. All of this, it's overwhelming. She nodded, tears glinting in the corners of her eyes. I know, Mom. I know. That's why I came, because I need you. She needs you. And I think we can fix this together. The truth of her words settled over me like a blanket. I realized that for years I had been trying to control everything, to hide, to protect, to avoid discomfort. But life, as it often does, had a way of forcing confrontation, of bringing us face to face with our reality. And now reality was sitting here, swaddled in blue, waiting for me to claim it. I leaned closer, my fingers finally making contact with the tiny hand that instinctively wrapped around my finger. A shock of connection ran through me, a tether stronger than anything I had ever known. I want to understand, I whispered. Tell me everything. Start from the beginning. Don't leave anything out.
She took a shaky breath and began recounting the months leading up to this moment. The tests she had run quietly, the calls she had made to medical experts, the late nights of research, and the sleepless nights filled with fear and anticipation. She spoke of doubt, guilt, and uncertainty, and how every step had led her to this very room, in front of me, demanding truth and reconciliation. As she spoke, memories flooded my mind, memories I had long buried. Memories of my own mistakes, of moments where I had chosen convenience over honesty, comfort over clarity, and silence over confrontation. But each memory, painful as it was, began to make sense in the context of the present. The child in my arms was not just a revelation. She was a lifeline, a chance to right wrongs, to heal wounds, and to rewrite the story that had been marred by secrecy and fear. I found myself asking questions I hadn't dared to ask in years. What does she remember? What does she feel?
How much does she know? She knows enough to recognize the truth, my daughter said softly. Enough to understand that you are her, and that I need you, Mom. We both do. The baby shifted slightly, a tiny coo escaping her lips, and I felt a tear roll down my cheek. It wasn't just for the shock or the revelation. It was for the possibility, the potential for love and connection that had been denied for so long. I wrapped my arms around her, careful, tentative, reverent. The warmth, the weight, the life. It was humbling, overwhelming, and beautiful all at once. We spent the next hours in conversation, the evening darkening outside the apartment windows, the city lights twinkling like distant stars. Stories were exchanged, tears shared, and laughter, tentative at first, began to fill the room. The baby slept peacefully, oblivious to the storm of emotions and revelations unfolding around her. And yet her presence was the catalyst for everything, the bridge to the past, the path to forgiveness, and the promise of a future that was no longer defined by secrets and fear. By the time the night ended, I felt a shift within myself. The fear, the hesitation, the guilt, they were still there, yes, but mingled now with hope, determination, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. I realized that life had handed me a gift wrapped in complexity, a chance to rebuild, reconnect, and reclaim what had been lost. And as we finally settled, my daughter leaning against me, the baby cradled in our combined arms, I knew that the story we were living was only just beginning. The past had collided with the present in the most unexpected way, but for the first time in years, I felt a sense of clarity. We were no longer prisoners of our mistakes. We were architects of our future. And this small, sleeping child was the blueprint for the family we could finally become. The morning sunlight crept through the half-open blinds, painting golden stripes across the nursery floor. I watched as my daughter gently rocked the baby in her arms, humming a tune I hadn't heard since she was little herself. The moment was surreal. Just yesterday, I had held her revelation in my hands, and now here we were, 3 generations of fragile, intertwined lives navigating the new reality thrust upon us. "Mom, look," my daughter whispered, her voice quivering but firm. "She reached for me last night. She remembered my voice. She knows me." I knelt beside her, letting my hand brush the baby's tiny fingers. They were soft, delicate, but somehow resilient, like they were already carrying a lifetime of stories within them. A shiver ran down my spine, not from fear, but from the enormity of what had been revealed. This was no ordinary child. This was a living testament to secrets kept too long, to truths hidden in shadows, and to a family history that demanded acknowledgement. "I can see it," I murmured, my voice barely audible. "She knows, even if she doesn't understand everything yet. She trusts you. She's already part of our lives, whether we're ready or not." My daughter's eyes met mine, and in that glance I saw the weight she had carried for months, the sleepless nights, the secret meetings with lawyers and counselors, the fear that her confession would destroy us rather than unite us. I thought I could handle this on my own," she admitted, her lips trembling. "But seeing her need you, need us, I realized we can't do this alone." The room was filled with a silence that spoke volumes, not the quiet of peace, but the heavy pause of lives about to change irrevocably. I could feel the threads of our family history stretching, taut and fragile, threatening to snap, yet holding us together by a thin, unbreakable cord. I remembered my own mother, the stern, unyielding woman whose love had been cloaked in duty and expectation. How many times had she told me,
The truth is never simple, Eleanor, but it's always necessary. And now, standing here, I understood her in a way I never had. The truths we had hidden, the choices we had made in fear, were all lessons. Painful, yes, but invaluable in shaping the people we were. I want to know everything, I said finally, my voice steadier than I felt. From the beginning, don't leave anything out. I need to understand who she is, how she came to be, and why this happened the way it did. My daughter nodded and began to recount the timeline, the late-night calls to adoption agencies, the anonymous consultations with doctors, the meticulous record-keeping, the constant anxiety that had kept her awake for weeks. She spoke of uncertainty, of doubt, of moments when she had wondered if revealing the truth would shatter more than it could heal. Each word was heavy with emotion, and each pause carried the weight of anticipation and fear. As she spoke, memories resurfaced. I remembered the night I had last seen her baby's father, brief, awkward, and filled with promises that were never kept. I remembered my own mistakes, the ways I had hidden my fear behind a facade of competence and control. And now, all of those moments converged in this tiny being cradled in my daughter's arms. She was not just a child. She was a living record of our history, of our failures, and of the possibility of redemption. The baby stirred, letting out a soft coo that seemed to punctuate the gravity of the conversation. I reached out instinctively, letting my fingers brush against her tiny hand. The connection was immediate, electric, grounding. It was as if she recognized me, not as the woman who had made mistakes, but as the person who could now guide, protect, and love her unconditionally. "I need your guidance, Mom," her voice trembling. "Not just for me, but for her. She deserves stability, love, and honesty. And I want to give her that, but I can't do it without you." I took a deep breath, letting the weight of her words settle. "We'll do this together now," I promised. "No more hiding, no more secrets. We face this as a family from here on out." The day unfolded with a mixture of mundane routines and extraordinary realizations. We bathed the baby together, laughed at the small victories, and navigated the tiny challenges that came with caring for a newborn. Each moment was both ordinary and profound, a reminder that life was a delicate balance of chaos and beauty. By afternoon, I suggested we take the baby outside. The air was crisp, tinged with the scent of pine and early winter frost. The city streets were bustling, yet in our little world, time seemed to slow. I pushed the stroller, feeling the weight of responsibility and love in equal measure. Every passerby's glance, every smile, every small gesture of acknowledgement reminded me of the life we were beginning to build, one filled with transparency, care, and hope. "Mom," said my daughter suddenly, her voice soft, "I've been keeping something from you too." I paused, heart hammering. "What is it?" She hesitated, then spoke. "I know who the father is, and he wants to meet her, but I'm scared. I don't know if it's the right time." The confession hung in the air like a fragile ornament, threatening to shatter at the slightest touch. I felt a mixture of relief, apprehension, and curiosity. "We'll navigate that when the time comes," I said. "Right now, we focus on her, on building trust, and on understanding who we are as a family." As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden glow across the park, I watched my daughter and the baby interact. The tiny hands grasping, the tentative smiles, the quiet moments of recognition. It all felt like a dream, and yet it was real. It was ours. Later that evening, as we returned home, I found myself reflecting on the lessons of the day. Life had a way of confronting us with truths we weren't ready for, but it also had a way of giving us opportunities for growth, connection, and redemption. This child, innocent and unaware of the complexity around her, was the catalyst for change, the embodiment of love that could heal old wounds.
We settled into the night with a sense of cautious optimism. The baby slept soundly between us, a symbol of hope and continuity. I felt a resolve I hadn't known in years, a determination to embrace the complexities of our family, to confront the past, and to nurture the future with honesty and love. And as I drifted off to sleep, I knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new revelations, and new opportunities to build the life we had only just begun to imagine. The story was far from over, but for the first time in a long time, it felt like we were writing it together, intentionally and with open hearts. The morning light filtered softly through the curtains, painting the nursery in shades of gold and cream. I sat on the edge of the crib, watching the baby stir, her tiny eyes blinking open like she was greeting a new world. My daughter entered the room, rubbing her temples from a restless night, and I could see the weight of uncertainty pressing down on her. Today, she would finally reveal the truth about the father, the man whose absence had shaped so much of her life and now directly influenced the future of this innocent child. "Mom, I need to tell you about him," she said, her voice low, almost afraid. "It's time you knew everything." She sat beside me, her hands folded tightly in her lap. The baby cooed softly, reaching for her mother's hand, oblivious to the gravity of the conversation about to unfold. I nodded, leaning forward. "I'm listening. No judgment. I just want to understand so we can do what's right for all of us." She took a deep breath and began recounting the story. "It started years ago, before all this, before I ever imagined being a mother so young. I met him at university. He was charming, smart, and I thought he cared. I believed he loved me. But he had a life I couldn't be part of, a life full of secrets, responsibilities, and a world I didn't belong in." Her eyes filled with tears as she continued. "When I found out I was pregnant, I was terrified. I didn't know if he would stay, if he would accept this, if he even cared. I tried reaching out, but every call, every message went unanswered. I felt abandoned, alone. And then," she paused, her voice catching, "then he disappeared." The words hung heavy in the air. I could feel the tension, the unspoken anger, the fear and the pain that my daughter had carried alone. "He disappeared?" I asked softly. "Completely?" "Yes," she whispered. "No explanation, no reason, just gone. I tried to move on, Mom, I really did, but I always wondered if he would come back, if he'd be the father our baby needed." I reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You did the right thing by being strong. You protected her and you protected yourself. That takes courage, more than most people understand." She nodded, grateful for the reassurance, but her eyes told another story, one of unresolved emotions, lingering questions, and a desperate need for closure. "And now," she said, "he wants to meet her. He found out about the baby. He knows and he says he wants to be part of her life. But I'm scared, Mom. Scared of what he might bring, scared of how this will change everything we've built." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words settle over me like a thick fog. Meeting him doesn't have to mean chaos. It can be a step toward understanding, toward building a relationship that's healthy and safe. You won't be alone in this. We'll navigate it together. Her gaze shifted to the baby who had begun to fuss, sensing the tension in the room. I don't know if I can trust him," she admitted. "I want him to be part of her life, but I need to know he's truly changed, truly responsible, truly worthy of this." I nodded, understanding the complexity of her emotions. Trust isn't given lightly, it's earned, and that's what this will be, earning trust, step by step. We'll set boundaries, we'll watch, we'll guide, and we'll protect her always. We spent the morning going over what had happened, the legal implications, the emotional preparedness required, and the logistics of a first meeting. Every detail mattered: where it would happen, who would be present, how to maintain calm if things went wrong. My daughter absorbed every word, taking notes, making mental lists, preparing herself for the possibility of confrontation and reconciliation all at once. By afternoon, I suggested we take a walk to clear our minds. The crisp winter air was invigorating, and the streets were lined with early holiday decorations that glimmered in the sun. We pushed the stroller slowly, letting the baby take in the sights, her wide eyes reflecting the twinkling lights and passing cars. I could see my daughter relaxing slightly, her posture easing as we walked, even though the weight of the upcoming meeting lingered in every step. "I've been thinking about him suddenly," she broke the comfortable silence. "I remember when we first met, the way he smiled, the way he made me feel seen. But I also remember the lies, the promises broken. Can someone really change that much?" I paused, considering my words carefully. People can change, but it takes time, honesty, and a willingness to face the consequences of the past. You can't force it, and you can't guarantee it. All you can do is protect yourself and your child while being open to what's possible. She nodded, absorbing the advice. "I want to believe it," admitted, "but I'm terrified. What if he hurts her? What if he hurts me again? What if he's not the person he says he is?" "Then we'll deal with it," I said firmly. "Together, always together. You're not alone anymore. You have a support system, and we'll make sure every step is measured, thoughtful, and safe." The conversation shifted as we returned home, moving from fear and speculation to strategy and planning. We talked about boundaries, expectations, and the potential challenges of introducing the father to the baby. Every scenario was discussed, every contingency considered, and every emotion acknowledged. It was exhausting but necessary. As evening approached, I could see the determination in my daughter's eyes. The fear hadn't vanished, but it had transformed into resolve, a commitment to face the truth, however difficult, and to protect her child while allowing for growth and possibility. That night, after the baby had fallen asleep, we sat in the living room, sipping tea and reflecting on the day. "I think I'm ready," she said quietly, almost to herself. "Ready to meet him, ready to see what happens, ready to take this step for her." I reached over, placing my hand over hers. "Then we take it slowly, we control the pace, and no matter what happens, we'll keep her safe, loved, and cherished. That's what matters most." The night ended with a mixture of apprehension and cautious optimism. Tomorrow would bring the meeting, the confrontation, and perhaps the beginning of understanding. But tonight, we had each other, and we had the baby, the anchor in the storm of uncertainty. As I turned off the lights, I whispered to myself, "This is the path forward. Fear may be present, but love will guide us. And no matter what happens, we face it together." Morning broke with a soft gray light filtering through the blinds, casting long shadows across the living room. The baby stirred in her crib, and I found myself sitting on the floor beside her, coffee in hand, reflecting on the upcoming meeting. Today, everything would change. Today, the man who had vanished years ago would step back into our lives. My daughter entered quietly, still in her pajamas, her hair a tangled halo from restless sleep. Her eyes were determined, but beneath them I could see the residue of countless sleepless nights, anxiety, doubt, and fear. She carried a notebook, her fingers gripping it tightly. It contained everything: questions, boundaries, contingency plans. She had thought of every possibility, every risk, every scenario. "I can't believe he's really coming," she murmured, setting the notebook down. Her voice trembled, betraying her calm facade. "I've rehearsed this so many times, but I don't know if I'm ready for the reality."
You're stronger than you think, I said gently, brushing her hair back. You've faced challenges before and protected her. Today is just another challenge, and we'll face it together. She nodded, taking a deep breath. Okay, let's do this. We spent the morning preparing the house. The living room was arranged to feel neutral, comfortable but controlled. There were no personal photos out except for a few neutral decorations, no items that could spark conversation beyond the child. Toys were neatly placed in corners, the baby's crib facing the main seating area so we could gauge reactions and interactions safely. By mid-morning, the knock came. I could feel my daughter's pulse quicken as she opened the door. Standing there was the man from her past, older, perhaps wiser, but unmistakably the same presence that had haunted her memory for so many years. He smiled and attempted warmth, but the tension in his shoulders betrayed the nerves beneath the surface. "Hi," he said, voice low, almost cautious. I'm here to see her, to see my daughter." My daughter stepped forward, posture straight, voice steady despite the storm inside. "We need to talk before that happens. I need to know why you left, why you vanished, why you didn't even try to contact me when I needed you most." He looked down, shame and regret flickering across his face. I know I failed. I can't undo the past. I can only try to be here now. I want to be part of her life. I want to be a father if you'll let me." The baby cooed from her crib, sensing the tension, but also the potential for connection. My daughter's gaze softened slightly, the anger mingling with longing, confusion, and cautious hope. She crossed her arms, holding herself steady. "You have a lot to make up for, and this isn't just about you. It's about her. She's the priority. Your actions now will define everything." "I understand," he replied, nodding solemnly. "I want to earn that. I want to be trusted. I want to be her father in every way she deserves." We moved to the seating area. The baby was placed gently on my daughter's lap, and she held her close, feeling the rhythm of her tiny heartbeat against her chest. The man knelt on the floor across from us, hands open, trying to appear non-threatening but careful not to rush contact. "This is your child," my daughter said softly, her eyes never leaving his. "She is not just a symbol of my past mistakes. She is her own person. If you want to be involved, you will respect that." He nodded, voice earnest. "I understand. I promise I will do whatever it takes." The baby reached out her tiny hands, and for a moment the man froze. Then, tentatively, he extended his own hand, and she grasped it. The connection was instantaneous, innocent, pure, a bond neither of us could deny. My daughter exhaled, a mixture of relief and apprehension. She was seeing him try, seeing him attempt to be present, and it was both terrifying and hopeful. As the afternoon wore on, we navigated questions and discussions with careful precision. My daughter asked about his life, his motivations, his regrets. He answered honestly, admitting faults, expressing remorse, and sharing a desire to build trust gradually. Every word mattered. Every gesture, every pause, every glance was scrutinized. We introduced small routines, feeding time, playtime, story time, allowing him to participate while my daughter observed closely. She monitored how he responded to the baby's needs, how patient he was, how attentive he became. Slowly, the tension began to ease. The baby laughed at his silly faces, reaching for his hands, responding naturally to his voice. It was a small miracle, a moment that allowed my daughter to breathe and imagine a future where he might genuinely be part of her life. But shadows of the past remained. Questions of trust, responsibility, and character lingered. "You understand that one misstep could ruin forever?" my daughter asked, eyes sharp. "One wrong decision, one lapse of judgment, and this ends. Do you understand?" "I understand," he replied, voice firm. "I won't fail again." By evening, the baby was asleep, and we sat together in the living room, the glow of the lamp casting warm light over the three of us. My daughter's expression was a mixture of exhaustion and cautious optimism. "I think maybe we can try this," she said softly, slowly, step by step, but no surprises, no shortcuts. Everything is transparent. He nodded, gratitude and relief etched across his face. "Thank you for giving me a chance. I won't waste it." We spent the remainder of the night planning for the next steps, scheduling visits, setting boundaries, and preparing for the reality of integrating him into our lives. There were still countless uncertainties, but for the first time in years, a path forward felt tangible, achievable, and safe. As I watched my daughter and her father interact, I realized that healing wasn't linear. It was fragile, it was messy, but it was possible. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hope, not just for them, but for the family we were slowly rebuilding brick by brick, moment by moment. The morning sunlight spilled through the sheer curtains, casting a warm glow over the living room where the baby played on a soft rug. My daughter sat nearby, notebook in hand, jotting down every little interaction with precision. She was determined to monitor, to measure, to control the situation, but I could see the softening in her eyes, a subtle acknowledgement that change might be possible. He arrived promptly, dressed in casual attire that suggested sincerity without ostentation. There was no grand gesture, no overcompensation, just presence. That's what mattered today. Presence, consistency, and patience. "Morning," he said quietly, almost shyly. The baby turned her head, eyes lighting up as if she recognized the man who had once been absent. She reached out her tiny hand, and he responded instinctively, letting her grip his fingers. The connection was small but profound, a bridge slowly forming over years of absence. My daughter watched, lips pressed tightly together. She spoke finally, voice firm yet restrained. "Today, you're not just visiting, you're participating. I want to see how you manage routines, how you respond to her needs, and how you handle stress. There's no room for mistakes, no room for excuses." He nodded, acknowledging the gravity of her words. "I understand. I won't let you down." The day unfolded in a series of carefully structured tasks. He prepared breakfast, cleaning meticulously after each step. He dressed the baby, carefully choosing clothes appropriate for the chilly morning. He sang softly, encouraged the baby to engage with toys, read aloud from picture books, and even managed nap time with patience that surprised both of us. Each interaction was a test, not just for him, but for my daughter's ability to release control, to trust that this man could contribute positively to their lives. It was slow, deliberate, and occasionally tense. He stumbled a few times, misjudging the baby's needs, but corrected immediately, showing awareness and humility. By mid-morning, he had gained small victories, making the baby laugh during tummy time, successfully calming her when a toy fell out of reach, and even managing to prepare a snack without any guidance. My daughter observed, jotting notes in her notebook, but her pen slowed as moments of genuine connection unfolded. "You're doing well," she admitted finally, voice softer than before. "But this isn't just about tasks. It's about presence, about emotional availability. Can you handle that?" "I want to," he said sincerely, meeting her gaze. "I want to be here for her, for you. I can't change the past, but I can shape the future." The afternoon brought a new challenge. The baby became fussy, a mix of fatigue and frustration, crying in high, urgent tones. My daughter and I exchanged glances, silently acknowledging the real test of patience. He remained calm, speaking in soft tones, rocking her gently, singing lullabies. After several tense minutes, the baby's cries subsided and a smile appeared on her tiny face.
That was impressive, my daughter said quietly, almost in awe. You didn't panic, you didn't lose control, and you responded with patience. He smiled, a mixture of relief and pride. I've had a lot of time to think about how I failed before. I'm learning how to do better. We spent the rest of the afternoon outside, allowing the baby to explore the backyard while we supervised. He engaged with her playfully, rolling a ball, pointing out shapes, and mimicking animal sounds, earning giggles and delighted squeals. My daughter observed closely, seeing not just a father trying, but a man capable of growth, understanding, and genuine care. Later, as the sun dipped toward the horizon, we moved back indoors. Dinner was a simple affair, but filled with conversation about routines, schedules, and expectations. My daughter asked questions about his plans for integration into daily life, his willingness to commit long term, and his understanding of boundaries. Each response was measured, thoughtful, and sincere. After dinner, my daughter tucked the baby into her crib, the soft glow of a nightlight casting warm shadows across the room. She turned to him, eyes searching for reassurance, for authenticity, for proof that he was capable of change. I need to know that you're not just performing for me, she said softly. This has to be real. You have to prove it every day, not just when it's convenient. I understand, he said firmly. I will show up every day in every way. You'll see that I'm committed. We spent the evening discussing long-term plans, schedules for school, visits, and activities, as well as strategies for emotional bonding. My daughter was cautiously optimistic, setting clear expectations while allowing small openings for connection. As the night deepened, I watched them interact, the baby reaching for his hand and him responding instinctively. It was a delicate balance of trust, patience, and presence, one that required consistent effort but promised hope. My daughter's eyes softened further, a subtle acknowledgement that healing was possible, that family could be rebuilt. Before leaving, he knelt beside my daughter, hand on her shoulder. Thank you for giving me the chance to be here, he said quietly. I won't let you or her down, I promise. She nodded, a mixture of skepticism and hope in her gaze. I'm watching, and I'll hold you accountable. Don't disappoint me. As he left for the evening, I felt a sense of cautious relief. Today had been a test, a measure of his ability to engage, care, and commit. He had passed, not perfectly, but with enough sincerity and effort to warrant continued observation. The road ahead remained challenging, but the first steps towards reconciliation had been taken. As I closed the door, my daughter whispered almost to herself, maybe, just maybe, this could work. And for the first time in years, I allowed myself to hope.
The house was quiet, the kind of stillness that only comes after a long day filled with emotion, tension, and fragile hope. I sat in the moving room, watching the soft shadows shift across the walls as the evening light faded. The baby slept peacefully in her crib, her tiny chest rising and falling with each breath. My daughter stood by the window, looking out at the garden, lost in thought. He arrived shortly after dinner, carrying a small basket of groceries and a careful smile. The evening air smelled faintly of pine from the Christmas tree still standing in the corner, its lights casting a warm glow across the room. Today felt different, heavier with possibility, yet lighter with relief. Evening, he said softly. His eyes sought mine, silently asking for permission, for trust, for acknowledgement. I nodded, the smallest of gestures that said everything. He stepped inside carefully, removing his shoes and placing the basket on the counter. I thought I'd prepare a few meals for the week, he said. Thought it might help, given everything we're working through. His tone was calm, sincere, and devoid of any pretense. This was real effort, not a performance. My daughter finally turned, her gaze steady. I want to see consistency, not just today, not just this week, every day. I need to know that you're committed to her,
to me and to rebuilding what was broken. I understand, he replied, voice firm. I'll show you, every day. The evening began with small tasks, each one a measure of patience and responsibility. He helped with bath time, carefully washing the baby while humming a tune that made her giggle. He dressed her in cozy pajamas, ensuring comfort over style. Every movement was deliberate, every touch gentle. Dinner was next. Together, we prepared a simple meal. He chopped vegetables with precision, stirred sauces with care, and set the table thoughtfully. My daughter observed, occasionally interjecting instructions or corrections, but mostly letting him navigate the tasks himself. After dinner, the baby fussed, a reminder that perfection was impossible. Yet instead of frustration, he responded with patience, rocking her gently while speaking in soothing tones. My daughter's pen hovered over her notebook, then slowly she closed it, a silent acknowledgement that the moment spoke louder than any notes or plans. We moved to the living room where blankets were spread across the floor for a play session. He engaged with her in imaginative games, pretending to be a lion and then a rabbit, encouraging giggles and laughter. My daughter watched, her expression softening further, a sign that trust was slowly forming. I can see it, she said finally, voice quieter than before. You're trying, you're present, and you're learning. That's what matters. He looked at her, eyes sincere. Thank you. That means a lot. I know I can't erase the past, but I can build the future, step by step. The night continued with gentle routines, reading bedtime stories, singing lullabies, and tucking the baby into her crib. Each moment was a testament to commitment, a demonstration of love and responsibility finally being realized. My daughter stayed nearby, observing silently but no longer skeptical. There was hope in her eyes, cautious but undeniable. As the baby drifted into sleep, he turned to my daughter and me and said, I want to be honest. I know I've made mistakes and I know I have a lot to prove, but I want this. Us. I want to be part of your lives, fully and completely. I won't stop working for that. I nodded. Words matter, but actions matter more. You've shown effort today, and that's the start. My daughter stepped forward, her gaze meeting his. I'll give you a chance, but every day counts. I need to see reliability, responsibility, and respect. Do you understand? I do, he said firmly, and I promise I'll show you, not just today, but every day moving forward. The following weeks were a mix of challenges and small victories. He arrived early in the mornings, helped with routines, managed appointments, and even coordinated play dates. He attended school meetings, read bedtime stories, and celebrated minor milestones as though they were monumental victories. My daughter gradually lowered her walls, letting him take more responsibility, acknowledging his progress. The baby thrived, surrounded by love, stability, and the slowly knitting fabric of a family once fractured. One evening, as the Christmas lights twinkled across the living room, he held the baby in his arms and spoke softly. I know it hasn't been easy. I know I've lost time, but I'm here now, and I'll never leave again. My daughter, standing nearby, smiled with a mix of relief and hope. I can see that. Thank you for proving it. I watched quietly, heart full. The journey had been long, filled with doubt, tension, and heartache, but this moment, this peaceful, tender moment, was proof that change was possible, that healing could happen, and that love could be reclaimed after years of absence. The Christmas tree shimmered behind us, a symbol of new beginnings and second chances. The room, once tense and uncertain, now hummed with warmth, trust, and the fragile but undeniable bond of family. That night, as we all settled into bed, I reflected on the journey. The mistakes of the past could not be erased, but the efforts of today had laid a foundation strong enough to support a hopeful tomorrow. My daughter, the baby, and the man who had once been absent now shared a new rhythm, a new story, one defined by commitment, patience, and love. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to rest fully, knowing that the road ahead was brighter, lighter, and filled with the possibility of joy. The past remained a shadow, but the present and the future was ours to shape together. The final chapter had been written not with grand gestures, but with consistent, heartfelt actions. And in that there was beauty, redemption, and a family reborn.